Hey there, friend. Welcome back to Daily Dose Radio here in the Bible Bistro. Well, why don't you come in here and sit down with me, get something hot or cold to drink, and we'll open our Bibles up as you sit here at the table with me, and we're going to look at Psalm 147, verses 17 and 18 today. And I have my something to drink here, so it's a nice cold drink, and I need that for my throat today. We're looking at verses 17 and 18. Now, on yesterday, we talked about verses 15 and 16, which really begins this section. There's a section here in this part of the psalm that begins in 15, and really you can read it all the way down to 19, and it begins with the Word of God and it ends with the Word of God, and in between you have that section about the cold. So my division is artificial. There's 2 verses a day. It's artificial. This really works together well. So, of course, I have to break it up so that I can have 5 days. We study verse by verse, but sometimes you just want to put it all together, and so we find ourselves in that situation here. So he sends forth his command to the earth, and his word runs very swiftly. That's in 15. And as I said yesterday, you can always translate that word commandment. In this case, you could translate it into his word or his saying. So he sends it out, and then the word is, it's running swiftly. So the activity of the word of God is strong, and then suddenly something happens. He gives snow. There's hoarfrost. There's ice, and then there's cold. And we're going to read about that today in 17. So more of that. And I think I alluded to yesterday, I don't know, maybe I didn't, that, for us, I think this is happening now to the evangelical world, is that there is a sense in which we've lost the fire. The cold, the winter has come. I just heard the other day that the Presbyterian Church has fired all their missionaries and disbanded their mission organization. I don't know what's happening. Well, I do know what's happening. It's all this cold. They've walked away from the Word of God. It's a part of that wheel and woe cycle that I talked about. It begins well, but it ends poorly at the bottom of the wheel. And then as you come back up, God delivers and there's life again. And that's kind of what's happening here in this passage. He sends out his word, and even though he sent it out, suddenly we see the cold coming. All the cold things, the snow, the hoarfrost, the ice, the cold, it's all his. He sends it. He sends it. And then, I think evangelicalism in America, at least I can speak of what's happening in America, is experiencing a wintertime. They're walking away from the Word of God. And I don't know what they're doing. They're playing. There's no expositional interest in the Word of God. There are in some places, but my goodness, it's all about money and numbers, and it's all about they substitute Great Commission talk for talk about numbers and money. That's the thing that's most important, so they can keep the organization alive, and that's happening. And it's a shame, and it's part of this winter time that we're experiencing. But this isn't the first time. There have been evangelical groups that have experienced this in the past, in Protestantism. You just look at what Charles Spurgeon had to deal with in the downgrade controversy. And so I think we're approaching something like that at this present moment. Well, there's always hope, though. And the prophets always give us hope, and this is no different. Because in verse 18, notice, he sent out his word and melteth them, and causes his wind to blow and the waters to flow. So we have the hope here at the end of the passage. He sent out his word and melts. So the word of God does this fire-like work, melting all the frozen hearts. And then the thing that just touches my heart is what we have there at the end of 18. He causes his wind to blow and the waters to flow. This is what Jesus told us in John chapter 3. when he said in John chapter 3 that everyone that's born of the Spirit of God is like the wind. You can hear it, but you don't know where it's coming from. You don't know where it's going. And so is everyone that's born of the Spirit. It's a work of God, and the Spirit of God, being that wind, is the one that does that work. He blows across the cold hearts, and the waters flow. God is the one that opens the rock and causes the water to flow. And then the river, it runs in the dry places. So that river is the Spirit of God running in the dry places. Those are the dry hearts. And only God can do that work. Only the Spirit of God, sent by the hand of God, through and by Christ, ladies and gentlemen, can do that work. And I think that's what we have right here in Psalm 147, verses 17 and 18. Well, I hope you'll join me again tomorrow. We're going to look at how the Word of God affects Jacob. And so that'll be the close of Psalm 147. And I hope you'll join me then here on Daily Dose Radio.